he spent $3,000 to prove he was worthy of her love. And that very night, she kissed a man who hadn't even bought her a drink. There's a story that repeats itself in different forms all over the world. A good man, romantic, thoughtful, sincere, who does everything right and still ends up alone. Jose thought this trip would change everything. Months of texting, thoughtful gifts, midnight calls. He planned every detail: the sunset dinners, the ocean view, the perfect hotel. He thought this was his moment, that when she saw the effort, she'd finally see him. But that night, she was downstairs in the bar, kissing someone else, someone who hadn't even tried. Jose sat there in silence, staring at his reflection in the hotel mirror, asking the same question millions of men have asked before: what did I do wrong? The painful truth is that he didn't do anything wrong. He did what he was taught to do. The romantic lie we were all taught. Since childhood, men are fed a story from movies, songs, fairy tales, and even love advice columns. That love is earned through devotion. That if you're nice enough, caring enough, romantic enough, she will have no choice but to love you back. It's a beautiful idea, and it's also one of the most destructive lies men have ever believed. Because in reality, romance doesn't create attraction. It amplifies what already exists. And when you use it to build attraction, instead of reward it, you destroy the very spark you're trying to ignite. Why, good guys, finish last? Let's go deeper, psychologically, not emotionally. Jose's mistake wasn't the trip. It was the energy behind it. He didn't invite her to experience something together. He invited her to validate his worth. His entire gesture came from a silent message that said, "Please see how much I care. Please choose me." And women, whether consciously or not, can sense this. They feel the weight of expectation beneath the kindness, the hidden pressure behind the flowers, the quiet need behind every compliment. It's not romance they reject. It's the emotional debt that comes with it. Carl Jung once said, "When a man projects his inner feminine onto a woman, he loses his power to love her as she is." That's exactly what happens here. Jose wasn't seeing her. He was seeing the reflection of his own longing, his anima, his inner feminine, and trying to win it back through her approval. The psychological mechanism behind attraction. Attraction doesn't live in words. It lives in emotional tension, the dance between certainty and mystery, between giving and holding back. It's the same force that makes art beautiful, that makes silence more powerful than sound, that makes a woman feel something before she understands why. When you give away everything too early, your attention, your affection, your plans, your availability, you remove the tension. You leave no mystery, no space for curiosity, no reason for pursuit. In other words, you make yourself emotionally predictable, and predictability is the death of attraction. Think of it like this. If someone gives you a Rolex on the first date, you don't think, "Wow, how generous." You think, "Why? The gesture feels off. Too much, too soon, too forced." Because we instinctively distrust value that comes unearned. The same principle rules romantic attraction. The hidden reason it hurts so much. When a woman pulls away after you've given your best, the pain cuts deep. Not because you lost her, but because you lost the illusion that your goodness guarantees love. That illusion dies hard. It's the boyhood belief that being nice enough keeps people from leaving. But adulthood and individuation, as Jung called it, requires you to let that illusion die. The man who matures emotionally learns, my worth is not proven through giving. My worth is expressed through being. He stops giving from emptiness. He starts giving from abundance. He no longer uses romance to get love. He uses it to share love. Once it's already mutual. The Jungian shift from need to presence. When a man gives from need, he's in his shadow. He's serving his fear of being unworthy. But when he gives from presence, his romance becomes a mirror of his inner strength. Presence means you don't perform love to be loved. You embody it naturally. Your energy says, I choose to be here, not because I need you to fill me, but because my presence already overflows. And women feel that difference immediately. They may not describe it, but they sense it. Because the feminine isn't drawn to perfection. She's drawn to aliveness. A man who's fully present, not chasing, not proving, becomes magnetic without trying. The practical shift every man can make. So how do you apply this? How do you stop repeating Jose's mistake? Stop trying to prove your value through romance. Your gestures should match her investment, not exceed it. If she hasn't earned girlfriend energy, don't give girlfriend-level gifts. Replace effort with energy. Attraction grows from emotional state, not activity. Slow your breath. Speak less. Move with intention. Let your silence create space, not anxiety. Give unpredictably. Don't be romantic on schedule. Be romantic when no one expects it. When it comes from inspiration, not obligation. Shift from validation to calibration. Every gesture should come from awareness, not fear. Ask, am I giving because it feels right? Or because I'm afraid she'll slip away if I don't? Live from purpose. The sexiest thing to a woman is a man with direction. When your energy moves toward your mission, not her approval, she naturally moves closer. The inner lesson. Romance isn't dead. It's just been misused. Like a medicine taken at the wrong time. Jose's $3,000 wasn't wasted on her. It was tuition. The price of learning that love cannot be bought, begged, or scheduled. It must be earned through polarity, through the sacred dance of give and hold, reveal and conceal, presence and distance. You don't need to stop being romantic. You just need to stop being romantic from fear. Because when romance comes from fullness, it doesn't chase. It attracts. It doesn't beg. It inspires. It doesn't ask, will you love me? It says quietly but powerfully, I already love from within. And that changes everything. She doesn't fall for what you say. She falls for what she feels in your presence. Have you ever noticed how the more you chase someone, the further they drift away? But the moment you stop, when you finally turn your focus back to your life, suddenly they come back. That's not magic. That's emotional physics. The same law that keeps the moon orbiting the Earth also governs the pull between two hearts. Every connection between a man and a woman creates an invisible field. You can't touch it, but you feel it in your chest. That quiet electricity between words. And what decides whether she leans in or fades away isn't what you say. It's what that field feels like. When the space between you holds mystery, tension, curiosity, attraction grows. When it's flooded with constant availability, reassurance, and predictability, it dies. Because desire breathes through uncertainty. It needs air. It needs the living tension between wanting and having. between approach and restraint. Carl Jung called this the tension of the opposites. He meant that all of life moves between two poles, masculine and feminine, known and unknown, order and chaos. And attraction is just that ancient dance playing out between two souls. Modern culture tells men, be open, communicate everything, be transparent. And while honesty is sacred, oversharing is lethal to mystery. The feminine doesn't fall in love with your information. She falls in love with her imagination of you, with the space you allow her to explore. That's why a man she met once can stay in her mind for weeks, while the man who texts every morning fades into static. It's not about effort, it's about energy. You have to leave her room to dream. Mystery isn't manipulation, it's oxygen. It's what allows her own feelings to grow, instead of being suffocated by your need to explain yourself. When you reveal every thought, every plan, every emotion, you give her nothing to discover. You remove the sacred tension. You remove the pulse that keeps love alive. Attraction works through uncertainty. It's the same pattern that makes gambling addictive, that keeps people scrolling on their phones for hours. The brain releases dopamine, not when the reward is constant, but when it's unpredictable, and love follows that same rhythm. When you're fully present one day and distant the next, not as a game, but because you have a life beyond her, her mind starts to orbit you. She begins to wonder what you're doing, where your energy is flowing, and that wondering becomes fascination. It's not cruelty, it's magnetism. The gravity of a man who belongs to his mission, not to her mood. In Jung's language, every man carries a hidden feminine within, the anima, and every woman carries a hidden masculine, the animus. When these inner forces meet through two people, we call it attraction. But when a man loses contact with his own masculine energy, when he becomes overly emotional, constantly pleasing, endlessly available, the polarity collapses. She feels safe, but not stirred, comforted, but not captivated. Yet when a man reclaims his inner direction, that quiet certainty that doesn't need to prove itself, something ancient awakens. He becomes a mirror of stability, and the feminine energy around him begins to move. It softens, it opens, it flows toward him. He doesn't need to chase, because his very stillness has become the gravity. Attraction isn't built through performance. It's built through presence, through the rhythm of closeness and distance. Like breath, you come close enough to let her feel your warmth. Then you step back and let her breathe in the space your absence creates. That rhythm, the inhale and exhale of connection, is the heartbeat of polarity. It's not about being cold or distant. It's about being unpredictable in a grounded way. One night, you share laughter until dawn. Then, for a few days, you disappear into your work, your art, your purpose, not to punish her, but because your life is bigger than her attention. That unpredictability doesn't confuse her. It excites her, because deep down, she wants to feel that you have a world beyond her, a world she must earn her way into. And this is where most men misunderstand uncertainty. It isn't about playing games. It's about living in fullness. It's about loving her from the overflow of your energy, not from the emptiness of your fear. When your days are rich, when your heart has purpose, friends, movement, creation, you naturally become magnetic. Your focus itself becomes foreplay. Your silence becomes tension. your life becomes the field she wants to enter. Remember this: two magnets only create current when distance exists. If they collapse into each other, current stops. It's the same with love. Too close, too soon, and the charge dies. Too far, too long, and connection fades. But in the rhythm between, in that pulse of come close, step back, come close again, the current of desire flows endlessly. So breathe into that space. Don't fear it. Don't rush to fill it. That space is where attraction lives. That space is what makes her reach for you when you're not there. Because when you stop chasing and start radiating, you stop being a man who needs love and become a man who embodies it. And that, my friend, is when love finally starts chasing you. She doesn't need a man who tries to be perfect. She needs a man who's real, strong enough to be seen, soft enough to feel. Somewhere along the way, men were taught to apologize for being men, to dim their fire, to lower their voice, to fear their desire. And yet, every time a man hides his fire, something inside him and inside her quietly dies. Because the truth is this: the world doesn't need more polite men. It needs more present men. Men who aren't ashamed of their masculinity. Men whose strength carries stillness. Not violence, not noise, but grounded direction. Ricardo learned that the hard way. After 8 years of marriage, he re-entered the dating world as a gentleman. Kind, respectful, careful. He planned each date perfectly. He paid for everything. He made sure she felt safe, comfortable, adored. And yet, after 3 perfect dates, she told him he was moving too fast. Too fast? 3 dates, 3 dinners, 3 months of patience. What she really meant was, there's no tension left. Ricardo had given her everything, except polarity. He had been so respectful, so contained, so afraid of being too much, that she never got to feel his fire. She saw him as a friend, with manners, not a man with magnetism. And 2 weeks later, she was dating someone new, a man who didn't ask for permission to be alive. That's the paradox of modern masculinity. Men believe that being gentle means suppressing their power. But Jung would tell you the opposite. True integration, the union of your shadow and your light, comes when you own your strength without shame. To be masculine is not to dominate. It's to direct. It's the energy that moves the river through the valley, that builds, protects, penetrates, creates. It's the structure that allows the feminine to flow freely without fear. When a man disconnects from that inner fire, he loses not just attraction, he loses the pulse of his own soul. There's a quiet confidence that comes from knowing who you are, from being at peace with your desire. You can feel it in a man's posture, in the way he walks into a room, not demanding attention, but naturally commanding it. He doesn't speak to impress. He speaks when something inside him needs to be said. And that energy, that unhurried certainty, is what draws people, especially women, toward him. Because deep down, the feminine doesn't crave control. She craves containment, the feeling of safety inside your presence. And containment only comes from a man who has tamed his chaos, not killed it. Masculinity without shame is not loud. It's not aggressive. It's the quiet, knowing that you could destroy, but choose to build instead. It's when your strength is no longer a weapon, but a vessel. When your desire isn't an apology, but a prayer. When your words don't chase, they anchor. That's what makes a woman melt. Not gifts, not promises, but the silent knowing that you are rooted. Rooted in your mission. Rooted in your breath. Rooted in your truth. In Jungian terms, this is the integration of the animus, the divine masculine archetype within, the king, the warrior, the magician, the lover, 4 energies that every man carries in potential. When the king is asleep, a man becomes aimless. When the warrior is wounded, he becomes bitter. When the magician is disconnected, he becomes lost in logic. When the lover is suppressed, he becomes numb. But when they unite, when you stand in the center of them, you stop playing roles. You start radiating wholeness. A man in wholeness doesn't try to attract. He simply is attraction. There's something deeply magnetic about a man who no longer hides his hunger, not lust, but hunger for life, for experience, for purpose, for truth. You feel it in his eyes, that spark of, I know what I want. It doesn't threaten, it invites, because his desire isn't about taking, it's about witnessing. It's about meeting the feminine with honesty, not fear, not performance. He doesn't need to prove he's good enough. He already knows he is. And from that place, he can finally give without losing himself. If you listen carefully, you can feel the difference in energy. A man who's disconnected says, "Please like me, so I can feel whole." But a man in alignment says, "I am whole, and I choose to share my fullness with you." That difference changes everything. The first creates pressure, the second creates peace. And peace, paradoxically, is the most intoxicating thing a woman can feel. So, what does it look like, in real life, to live as a man who's not ashamed of his masculinity? It looks like standing tall, without arrogance. It's choosing silence over explanation. It's holding her gaze a second longer instead of talking about your feelings. It's expressing desire with your eyes, not a paragraph of words. It's being unapologetically yourself, without needing permission for your presence, because your presence is the gift. When you enter a room with purpose, not performance, everyone feels it. When you speak less but mean every word, she listens differently. When you touch her hand without hesitation, she feels safe to surrender, not because you forced it, but because your energy said, "I know where I stand." Masculinity without shame doesn't need to prove. It doesn't need to chase. It simply creates space and holds it. That's the alpha principle. Not dominance, not games, not bravado, but quiet certainty. The knowing that you are the mountain, and she is the river flowing around you. And the more grounded you are in your mountain, the freer her river becomes. Never apologize for being a man who feels deeply and leads firmly. Never hide the flame that was meant to light her path. Because the world doesn't need men who are perfect. It needs men who are real. Men who remember that their strength and tenderness were never enemies. They were always meant to dance together. That dance is masculinity without shame. Romance isn't wrong. It just becomes poison when it comes from fear instead of fullness. Romance, in its purest form, is a sacred language, a way a man says, "I see you." But the same gesture, done from the wrong energy, can turn that sacred language into manipulation and transform attraction into pity. Most men never realize when the shift happens. When their love stops feeling magnetic and starts feeling heavy, they think they're expressing devotion, but what they're really expressing is dependence. And there are 4 moments, 4 subtle traps, when even good men destroy everything they've built. Let's walk through them, slowly. Mistake 1, romancing without status. Jose made this mistake first. He offered the beach trip, the candlelight dinners, the confessions, all before she had truly earned his intimacy. In his heart, he already saw her as his woman, but in her mind, he was just a generous friend, a friend she could use for comfort, but not a man she felt compelled to surrender to. He gave her the crown before she had even entered the kingdom, and the moment a woman receives the reward before the effort, her curiosity dies. You see, the female psyche values what it earns, not what it's handed. And when a man gives girlfriend-level energy to someone who hasn't earned it, he's not loving her, he's bribing her. A woman can sense it. It feels like a transaction masked as tenderness. The truth? Never invite a woman to something you would only share with your queen if she hasn't yet shown she can hold that role. Don't pour wine into a cup that still belongs to another table. Mistake 2, reactive romance. It begins after the first fight. The silence, the distance, the ache. She pulls back, maybe testing your center, and you, panicked by the void, respond with flowers, gifts, and a flood of words to pull her back. It feels noble. It feels like love, but it isn't. It's fear dressed in fragrance. It's romance as a reaction, not as a reward for warmth, but as a plea against rejection. And here's what happens when you do that. You teach her that drama equals attention, that the colder she becomes, the more you will chase. Before you know it, she has learned that distance is her weapon, and you, the man who once led with calm, have become the puppet of her moods. Romance should never be reactive. It should be reflective, a mirror of connection, not of chaos. Let her coldness meet your silence. Let your presence teach her that love is not a faucet she can turn on and off. Because when you reward emotional storms with roses, you don't win her heart. You feed her power. Mistake 3, calendar romance. Every February 14th, the stores fill with red hearts and plastic promises, dinner reservations, obligatory bouquets, photos for social media captions that say, "I'm loved." But here's the truth. Any man can buy flowers on Valentine's Day. It doesn't make him romantic. It makes him predictable. Calendar romance is love by habit, gestures dictated by the date, not the heartbeat. It's the easiest way to turn passion into procedure. A woman doesn't fall for what's expected. She falls for what's felt. The unexpected note left on her desk on a rainy Tuesday. The warm coffee brought to her doorstep at sunrise because you remembered she had a hard week. True romance isn't about occasion. It's about attunement. It's knowing her enough to give when the world forgets her. It's giving because you want to, not because you should. The greatest gestures are the ones without witnesses. Mistake 4, romance from need. This one is silent. It doesn't look like desperation until it's too late. It sounds like sweet messages, good intentions, and the constant craving to do more. But beneath it all is anxiety, the unspoken plea, "Please love me back." When you give from need, you're not giving, you're bargaining. And women, intuitive as they are, can smell that bargain miles away. Neediness has a scent, the scent of insecurity. It says, "I'll do anything so you don't leave." But the paradox is brutal. The more you do to secure her, the less secure she feels. Because deep down, she knows. If your peace depends on her affection, you're not strong enough to hold her world. A woman can only relax in the arms of a man who doesn't need her to breathe, who wants her but doesn't collapse without her. That's the difference between romance that magnetizes and romance that suffocates. The Jungian truth beneath it all. All four mistakes come from the same root, the disowned masculine, the part of you that forgets your power, that trades sovereignty for approval. Jung would call it the shadow of the lover, the man who confuses devotion with submission, who mistakes generosity for surrender, and loses himself in the mirror of her emotions. But when you reclaim that shadow, when you remember that your heart can give without begging, your love becomes powerful again. Romance from wholeness is irresistible. It's not a plea, it's an offering. It says, "I choose you, but I also choose myself." And that energy, that paradox of desire and independence, creates the deepest attraction there is. So remember, be romantic, but not reckless. Be giving, but not grasping. Be open, but never empty. Let your gestures come from your strength, not your fear. From your awareness, not your anxiety. Because when you love from fullness, your romance stops being performance and becomes presence. It stops being a language of need and becomes a language of power. The difference is subtle, but it changes everything. Romance is not the fire itself. It's the spark that ignites when a man's soul meets his strength. And if you understand this, you'll never lose your balance again. The difference between a woman liking you and obsessing over you isn't how much you give, it's how much she feels she could lose. There's a rhythm beneath every great love story, an invisible pulse that keeps attraction alive long after the first spark. Most men lose it without realizing. They get comfortable, predictable. They start giving affection as a habit, not as a response to connection. And slowly, the polarity fades. The current that once electrified the air between you turns still. But when a man understands the formula, when he learns how to create tension, feed uncertainty, and time his romance with precision, he becomes unforgettable. Because true attraction isn't built through logic or routine. It's built through emotional rhythm, tension, the pulse of desire. Every woman needs to feel the possibility of loss to fully appreciate the presence of love. Not because she's manipulative, but because tension is what keeps desire alive. When a man gives himself away too easily, there's nothing left to win. The story ends before it begins. Tension isn't conflict, it's contrast. It's the magnetic space between closeness and distance, the breath between inhale and exhale. Imagine two dancers, too close, and they trip over each other. Too far, and the rhythm dies. But when they move in sync, one step forward, one step back, the energy flows like fire through the air. That's what tension feels like in attraction. It's not chaos, it's choreography. When you hold your center, when you can lean in without collapsing, touch without clinging, speak without seeking, she feels that tension in her body like a current she can't escape. She won't call it tension. She'll call it chemistry. Uncertainty, the shadow of the unknown. Certainty kills curiosity. The more a woman knows exactly where she stands, the less her imagination needs to dance. The human mind craves what it cannot fully predict. It's the same psychology that drives addiction. The unknown creates anticipation. Anticipation feeds dopamine, and dopamine is the chemical signature of desire. That's why the most intoxicating relationships are never completely clear. Not toxic, not manipulative, just alive. You show her your interest, but not your surrender. You let her know you care, but never that she controls your mood. You become a mystery wrapped in truth. And in that space of uncertainty, her emotions start to spiral. She begins to wonder, what is he thinking? Does he miss me? Has he moved on? Those questions are the beginning of obsession. But this only works when you are grounded. Because uncertainty without stability, it creates chaos. You must be her storm and her stillness at once. A man who embodies both becomes unforgettable. Strategic romance, the art of timing. Romance isn't about frequency. It's about timing. The same gesture that feels irresistible at the right moment can feel suffocating at the wrong one. Most men give romance like medicine. Every time something goes wrong, they dose her with affection. But real romance is a reward, not a repair. Give it after she opens up, not when she pulls away. Give it after she invests, not when she withdraws. That timing tells her subconscious, warmth brings connection. Coldness brings distance. You rewire her emotional blueprint through your consistency. She learns that the only way to receive your energy is by bringing her own warmth to the table. That's how you turn romance into an amplifier of attraction, not a bribe for attention. The formula in motion, tension, plus uncertainty, plus strategic romance, obsession. Each piece feeds the other. Tension creates emotional electricity. Uncertainty keeps that electricity alive. Strategic romance releases it in doses, so the system never collapses, but never rests. It's the same pattern nature uses to keep everything alive. Waves crash, retreat, and crash again. Hearts open, close, open again. Night turns to day, and day returns to night. When you live in rhythm with this cycle, your love stops feeling like control and starts feeling like gravity. She begins to chase your stillness the way a flame chases oxygen, a story of balance. Fernando understood this without realizing. For weeks, he gave too much. Texts, plans, attention. The spark faded. Then one day, he stopped trying. He immersed himself in his work, answered her messages briefly, went out with friends. No coldness, just calm absence. Within days, she reached out again, not because she missed his words, but because she missed the energy he once withheld. And when he finally surprised her with a sunset drive to the mountaintop, coffee in hand, soft music in the air, it wasn't the coffee that made her melt. It was the rhythm, the contrast, the tension between presence and distance. That night, she told him something he never forgot. You make me feel safe, but never bored. That's what this formula does. It creates safety for the heart and danger for the mind. The perfect duality, the essence of desire. The Jungian layer. Jung once wrote that love must hold the tension of opposites, that to truly connect, two souls must remain whole, never merged. When you over-romanticize, you dissolve your individuality. When you withdraw completely, you break the circuit. The secret is to oscillate, to flow between tenderness and distance, revelation and restraint, fire and air. Because a woman doesn't want to consume you. She wants to feel you, to sense your depth without touching the bottom. That's what keeps her returning to your presence like a wave to the shore. When the formula becomes nature, once you understand this rhythm, you no longer need to calculate. It becomes instinct. You stop asking, should I text her now? And start feeling, is the energy balanced? You no longer give romance out of obligation. You give it when it overflows. You no longer fear distance. You trust that the space between you is what gives your connection oxygen. And she feels that, not through your words, but through the stillness in your chest, the steadiness in your gaze, the mystery in your timing. At that point, attraction stops being something you do. It becomes something you are. A man who masters the rhythm of giving and withdrawing doesn't chase love. He becomes the gravity it orbits. That is the formula of strategic romance. Not manipulation, not control, but the art of living with energy so alive, it teaches love to breathe. Every man carries 3 lives within him. The naive boy who gives everything, the broken man who learns boundaries, and the awakened soul who loves with power. There are moments in every man's journey when love becomes his mirror. It shows him not who the woman is, but who he has become in front of her. Some learn gently, some learn through fire, but all must pass through these 3 mirrors. The story of Jose, the story of Marcus, and the story of Roberto, the innocent. Jose believed in effort. He believed that if he gave enough, cared enough, proved enough, love would reward him. For 4 months, he built a fantasy. Late night calls, inside jokes, little gifts, patience without limits. He never crossed a line, never risked rejection, never let his desire breathe in daylight. When he finally invited her on a trip, the grand gesture that movies promised would win her heart, he believed it was his moment, his declaration, his turning point. But the universe gave him truth instead of romance, because that night, while he sat alone in the hotel room, rehearsing words of love, she was downstairs in the bar, kissing a man who hadn't even bought her a drink. Pain like that doesn't just bruise your ego, it cracks your identity. Jose wasn't just rejected, he was revealed as a man who confused giving with deserving, who mistook patience for polarity, who thought love could be earned by effort instead of energy. In Jungian language, Jose lived under the spell of the unintegrated anima. The feminine within him projected outward, begging for completion through a woman's validation. When he said, "I love her," what he really meant was, "I hope she finally fills the part of me I've never met." The tragedy of Jose is that he gave too much too soon, but his pain was sacred, because pain, when faced honestly, is the birthplace of power. Jose's heartbreak wasn't punishment, it was initiation, the awakening. Marcus watched Jose fall. He recognized himself in that reflection, stuck in the friend zone, invisible to the women he adored. He too once wrote long texts, waited for replies that never came, and called it being respectful. But one day, after years of quiet resentment, he decided to change the story. He stopped being available to everyone. He stopped waiting for perfect timing. He stopped chasing validation and started chasing purpose. He began to live as if his own life mattered again. Gym, projects, silence. He dated other women, not to prove anything, but to remember that he had options. And something strange happened. The woman who once ignored him started to notice. She reached out, asked questions, created reasons to see him. When she touched his arm, he didn't freeze like before. He met her eyes. He closed the distance. He let the air between them burn. That moment, small, silent, magnetic, was the first time Marcus felt his masculine power awaken. It wasn't dominance. It wasn't arrogance. It was calm certainty, the kind that says, I'm no longer seeking permission to exist. 3 months later, they were together. 2 years later, married. Not because he became colder, but because he became centered. He learned that attraction isn't about chasing. It's about changing your frequency. Marcus became the archetype of the emerging warrior, the man who meets his shadow and no longer fears it, who loves with strength, not supplication, the collapse. Roberto's story begins beautifully. For 3 months, he and Camilla were inseparable. Dinners, laughter, shared playlists, whispered dreams. But then came the silence. Her replies grew shorter, her eyes less alive, her warmth fading. Panic set in. He felt her slipping. And instead of grounding, he flooded her world with romance. Flowers delivered to her office, a weekend trip, a handwritten letter begging her to stay. Each gesture came from love, and each one pushed her further away, because beneath the tenderness was terror. His gifts didn't say, I love you. They said, please don't abandon me. 2 weeks later, she did. Not because she wanted to hurt him, but because the energy of fear had suffocated the attraction. Jung called this possession by the shadow of the lover. When a man lets his need for connection devour his boundaries, he becomes consumed by the same emotion he once controlled. Roberto's tragedy wasn't that he loved too much, it's that he loved from emptiness. The lesson beneath the stories: Jose, Marcus, Roberto. 3 men, 3 mirrors. One lost himself in fantasy. One found himself through balance. One drowned in the very love he tried to save. But together, they reveal the full arc of masculine awakening: innocence, power, wisdom. Jose shows the naive heart that confuses giving with worth. Marcus shows the maturing man who reclaims direction. Roberto shows the wounded lover who must learn to let go. Every man, at some point, lives all 3, but only those who move through them consciously reach the 4th stage. The integrated man, the one who gives without begging, leads without controlling, loves without losing himself. He's the one who can hold tension without fear, uncertainty without anxiety, romance without weakness. He has walked through heartbreak, not as a victim, but as a pilgrim. The Jungian perspective. In Jungian terms, these 3 stories represent the transformation of the masculine through the feminine mirror. Jose lives under anima projection, loving an illusion of his own inner feminine. Marcus begins integration, honoring both logic and emotion, direction and tenderness. Roberto faces possession, being swallowed by the shadow of his own desire. But beyond them all stands the 4th archetype, the individuated man, who no longer seeks completion through anyone else. He doesn't chase the feminine to feel whole. He meets her from wholeness. And that's when the dance finally becomes divine. A man becomes irresistible, not when he learns what to say, but when he learns what to hold back. Because restraint is not coldness, it's power. It's the mark of a man who knows he can give, but chooses when. That choice is freedom, and that freedom is attraction. When you stop chasing love and start embodying truth, everything meant for you begins to find its way home. There comes a moment, quiet but unmistakable, when a man finally stops running, not from women, not from pain, but from himself. It's the moment when you stop asking, how do I make her stay? And start asking, who am I when she leaves? That question is the threshold between boyhood and manhood. Because love, in the end, was never about her. She was just the mirror, the sacred messenger, the reflection that forced you to face your own shadow, the return from the underworld. You've been through it all. The heartbreaks that broke your breath, the silences that stretched for nights, the moments when you looked at yourself and saw a stranger. But look closer now. That stranger is no longer lost. He's just changed. Every fall has carved a deeper river into your soul. Every tear has washed away one more layer of illusion. You've learned that strength is not control. It's surrender without collapse. That masculinity is not power over another. It's power over yourself. And that love, real love, is not a rescue. It's the reward for becoming whole. The man who walks differently. When a man integrates his shadow, he moves differently. You can feel it before he speaks. He doesn't walk into a room to be seen. He walks in, knowing who he is. His energy no longer seeks approval. It offers presence. He doesn't try to convince a woman of his worth. He lets her feel it in his stillness. He doesn't try to hold her attention. He holds his center, and the world orbits naturally. He is both soft and unshakable, both wild and wise, both light and shadow. This is the man Jung called individuated, the one who has met every part of himself and made peace with them all, the inner king. There's a moment, somewhere between letting go and standing tall, when you realize you were never meant to be the servant of love. You were meant to be its vessel. A man in his power doesn't chase queens. He builds kingdoms. He creates spaces where truth feels safe and affection feels earned. He knows that his time, attention, and energy are his highest currency, and he spends them only where they multiply peace. That is the king energy within every man, calm, generous, grounded, with eyes that see clearly and hands that give without fear. And every woman, when she meets that energy, feels something ancient awaken inside her, because she's finally in the presence of a man who remembers himself. Your invitation. So, if you've reached this point, if you've walked with Jose through heartbreak, with Marcus through awakening, with Roberto through loss, then you are already becoming the fourth man, the integrated one, the one who no longer asks, what do women want? But instead asks, what does truth require of me? That question changes everything, because when you start living from truth, love no longer feels like pursuit. It feels like gravity. Your energy calls in what matches it, quietly, powerfully, inevitably, and the feminine, in all her forms, responds, not to your words, not to your effort, but to your being, the new beginning. Maybe right now you're alone. Maybe your heart is still tender. Maybe you're standing in the ruins of a love that once defined you. Don't run from that. Stand in it. Breathe in the ashes until you can smell the gold beneath. Because this isn't the end. It's the rebirth. The man who emerges from heartbreak isn't broken. He's refined. He no longer hides behind effort. He no longer confuses love with need. He walks differently. He speaks less. He feels more. And when he finally meets a woman again, he doesn't hand her his piece. He shares it. That is love as reward, not rescue. The final reflection. Everything you've learned about tension, timing, uncertainty, and truth was never about strategy. It was about energy. Energy is the language beneath every word, the truth behind every action, the silent gravity of every presence. You can't fake it. You can only become it. And when you do, you no longer chase attraction. You embody it. Because you've realized that the woman you were trying to win was never out there. She was the reflection of your own inner feminine, the part of you that longed to be understood, to be seen, to be held without fear. When you can love that part of yourself completely, every love that follows will feel different. It won't feel like survival. It will feel like soul. The man who loves wisely doesn't search for the right woman. He becomes the kind of man who makes love inevitable. So now, take a deep breath. Look in the mirror. The man staring back at you isn't broken. He's becoming divine, not by escaping his shadow, but by carrying light through it. That is the work. That is the way. That is the reward. The invitation to awakening. If this journey spoke to you, don't let it end here. Let it begin with you. Because the world doesn't need more men trying to win love. It needs more men who embody it. Share this message. Pass it forward. Let it awaken the ones still sleeping, the ones still mistaking effort for worth. Remind them that love isn't something you chase. It's something you become. So go. Build your life like a man who knows his heart is already full. Love deeply, but never desperately. And let your presence, not your words, speak for you. Because when a man lives like that, he doesn't just find love, he becomes it.